All right, I did make the last minute decision to kind of break this up so it doesn't get too long. But we're going to do some word problems now. Before we do that, there's a few things we need to talk about. So for the equation y equals mx plus b, you have two variables. You have the x and you have the y. So the x is kind of like the rate. It's going to be the independent variable. But I'm also going to put the word rate because I think you guys will relate to that more. So independent variable is kind of like the thing that's changing. So if I'm earning like X amount of money per month, that's going to be changing depending on how many months I work. Or if you see something like miles per gallon, that's a rate, that's an independent variable. It's something that's changing. Y is going to represent the dependent variable. The dependent variable depends on the independent variable. Okay, so the dependent variable doesn't change, but it's kind of like your result. All right, M, so if you remember from the last video, M represents the slope or the recurring rate. Rate or slope. And then B represents the constant. So these are the two things that I'm really going to talk about. I'm going to highlight them in green. We're going to be talking about rate and constant when we talk about these word problems. The rate or the slope is what goes with that independent variable, okay? The constant is something that happens one time, and it's usually something that's just added or subtracted to the equation. So here we go. Let's read number 1. The fee to join a book club is $15 a month plus a joining fee of $10 for the first month. Create a linear equation to represent the cost of the book club using M for the number of months. Then decide how much money will be spent on book club after 5 months. So there's two parts to this. First, we just have to write our equation. Then we're going to use that equation that we write to determine how much money we're going to spend in 5 months on our book club. So here's what I want you to ask yourself for every linear word problem. If you're writing a linear equation, what is your rate and do you have a constant? Remember, the rate is something that's being multiplied. It's like your independent variable. The constant is something that happens one time. So let's read this one more time. The fee to join a book club is $15 a month. That is a rate because it's going to go up depending on how many months I'm in book club. So $15 a month. And it's not wanting us to use X, it's wanting us to use M for the number of months. So 15 times M, 15 times the number of months is our rate. Now, do we have a constant? Yes, we do. Notice it says plus, I want the highlighter, plus a joining fee of $10 for the first month. So you only have to pay that $10 one time. So that's not a rate, it's just the one time $10. So our constant is 10. And that is added. So here's what our expression would look like. 15 times the number of months plus 10. That's going to represent how much we spend. This right here is our independent variable. Now we need a dependent variable. The dependent variable is going to be our y. The dependent variable is going to be, dependent. The dependent variable would tell us like how much money we're spending overall, okay? So M is our independent variable, Y is going to be our dependent variable. It's going to represent the cost. So let's take our equation and let's estimate how much, not estimate, we can actually calculate it. Let's determine how much money we will spend on book club after 5 months. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 5 and we're going to plug it in for the number of months. So 15 times 5 plus the $10. I have $15 for every month plus the 10 starting out. So what is 15 times 5? Okay, 15 times 5, that should give us 75 plus the $10 fee. It's going to be $85. So y equals $85, that's my cost. Okay, number 2. Again, when we do this, when you read through it, I want you to think, what is the rate and what is the constant? That's going to help you come up with your equation. James has 43 unread books on his shelf. James reads 3 books per month. I think we could already fill out our constant and our rate, okay? Constant is something that's like added one time or something you're starting off with. The constant was 43 books. That's how many books he had to start off with. So I'm going to write the constant as 43. And then the rate is 3 books per month. And it says write a linear equation to represent how many unread books will be on his shelf after X months. So it wants us to use X as our independent variable. Okay. So now we're ready to write our equation. Now, we have our rate, which is 3 times X, where X is the number of months. And we have our constant. He started off with 43 books. Now we have to think, are we adding these two together or are we subtracting? So let's think about this. He has 43 books and he is reading 3 a month. We're trying to figure out how many are still unread. So is the number of unread books going up or down? Should be going down, okay? He's not going out and buying more books. He is actually reading them, taking them off his bookshelf. So we should be subtracting. He had 43 books to start with, but we're taking out 3 books per month that he is reading. So here's your equation. Y equals 43 minus 3x. We have 43 books to start with. We are reading 3 for every month. So that number of unread books is going down. So we're ready to estimate or determine now. Determine how many unread books you will have after 5 months. Number of months is our independent variable. It's our x. We're going to do 43 minus 3 times 5, which should be, what's 43 minus 15? That should be 28. So we're going to answer this by saying 28 books. 28 unread books. So not only is it important to make sure you identify your rate and your constant, it's also important to know if you're adding or subtracting. Should your number be going up or should your number be going down? Number 3, your starting salary at your job is $38,700. Each year you work for the company, you will receive a $1,275 raise. Write an equation to represent how much money you will earn after X years. Then determine your salary after 8 years with the company. Okay, so let's work on our equation first. What's the rate or your independent variable? What's changing? And then what's your constant? Remember, the constant is like a starting point or something that happens one time. Okay, it says your starting salary at your new job is $38,700. That's your constant. That's where we're starting. It's not going up by that amount every year. And then it says each year you work for the company, you will receive a $1,275 raise. That's every year. Every year you're going to have that raise. That's that rate. That's a reoccurring thing. So we're going to make $1,275 more times the number of years we work there. So there's my rate. Now, let's think. Are we adding these together or are we subtracting? Is our money going to go up the longer we work there, or is it going to go down the longer we work there? It should be going up. So my equation would be y equals 275, that's my raise per year, plus my starting salary, $38,700. Oops. There's your equation. That's part 1. Now determine your salary after 8 years with the company. So X was the number of years, so I'm going to plug in 8 for X. So 1,275 times 8 plus 38,700. Okay, so let's figure that out. So I'm going to use my calculator for this one. Okay, so if I have my raise times 8, that means my raise after 8 years is going to be $10,200 plus the $38,700 that I started out with. I'm getting 48 grand. Here we go. This is how much money I'm going to make after 8 years. Okay, next one. Now we're going to work on interpreting a graph. So we just have one example here. Jimena is ordering a taxi from an online taxi service. She has to pay a flat charge just to order the taxi and then has to pay per mile depending on how far she travels. What does the slope of the line represent? So let's make sure we understand this, okay? She is ordering a taxi. She has to pay some kind of flat charge just to order the taxi. That's like your constant. So I want you to look at the graph and ask yourself, what do you think the starting point is? How much money do you think that she had to pay to even order this taxi? Look right here. It's starting at $4 and 0 miles. If you look down at the bottom, look at miles and cost. When it's at 0 miles, which means she hasn't driven, she still has to pay $4. So that constant is $4. That's just for ordering the taxi. Okay, so now let's think the rate. Look at how this is changing. Let's pick some points. Well, it's kind of hard to see. But at 1 mile, she's right under $8. At 2 miles, she's maybe, I don't know, $10 and so on. So the rate is cost per mile. Isn't that also the slope? So there's our answer. The slope represents cost per driven mile. I'm going to circle that. That kind of answers our question. Now, what does the y-intercept represent? Okay, remember, whenever you're looking at a graph, your y-intercept is here, goes up and down. Your x-intercept is over here. So the y-intercept is 4, and it's crossing right there. So we said that was like the constant. So what does the y-intercept represent in our scenario? That's like her, how does she word it? Flat charge. Y-intercept is the flat charge to order the taxi.